what's the systems? Like, would you say there's 5 systems you could list and go, these are really valuable and worth being part of gyms for? Hey, you. Yes, you with the moist grass on your bare legs. This is a new year and a new podcast. I'm asking you to join me in some changes made just for you. I want listeners to join the new Facebook group for Aussie Lawn Stars, so you can give me feedback on existing episodes and content ideas for more episodes. But more importantly, it's a place you can ask questions. The simple questions may get answered by members in the group already, much like you would find in any community group. But the questions will fuel and feed future episodes. More importantly, if you ask a question in the group or on the YouTube comments section, you may get sucked into the dungeon where your question and you become a feature episode. In short, join Aussie Lawn Stars on Facebook, YouTube and Instagram to participate and engage with me directly and other listeners who want to help or be helped.
So as far as systems goes, I'm also package it all together, like the support you get from your franchisor.
That's one.
That's almost a system in itself, because they've got the experience, they've got the idea of what other successful gyms in your area are doing, and they can sort of point you into direction, speak to this person, speak to this person. The thing you don't get from the LMC, it's LMCA, right?
Yeah, so you've got LMCA and the Australian Professional Lawn Contractors.
Yeah, okay, so let's just package those two together. So with the gyms, with my franchisor, it's Central Coast and Newcastle, right? So all of those contractors, those gym contractors that are in that area that we're talking to, getting support from, it's for the Central Coast. So it's our weather conditions, it's the type of grass we have in that area. It's all sort of based around the same thing. We're all going through the same thing.
Right.
It's raining here at the moment if we're in a dry season. Whereas on the LMCA, you could be getting advice from a guy in Western Australia when you're living in Sydney. It's completely irrelevant to you.
You have to look out for those West Aussies. Don't trust them.
Yeah, that's right. You can't trust them. They're cylinder mowers. So that's the benefit. Like, you're talking to other business owners and you're seeing what they're doing in the same type of areas that you're in. Whereas the LMCA, I'm sure you can sort of build a small community of guys that you go to and you talk to regularly that, you know, sort of are in the same areas of you, or they have a business that you aspire to have and they have advice about employees. But the way that it's set up for us is we're speaking to people that are in the same environment as us. So similar price points for customers, similar ways of getting employees, all that stuff is filtered through. We can go and we can share employees, bounce casuals around to each other. So that is a big bonus as far as I'm aware. That is a step above the LMCA group, because it is such a smaller, like, tight-knit community in comparison to the whole of Australia.
Yeah.
So that's one of the benefits. Then you've got the gym's jobs. And the gym's online system, which is it's got all your revenue information, all your invoicing, all your quoting.
So that is gym's version of a CRM for people who don't know, customer relationship management software.
Yeah, correct. And we briefly spoke about this before. I'm not familiar with the other systems, like other systems and whatnot that independents have access to. So I can't compare it and say it's better or worse or easier or harder than anything else.
Well, I'll jump in there. I'll say that I don't use gyms jobs because I'm not a gyms franchise and I'm not a franchise for anything else. So I'm just speculating, but I've also listened to Joel talk about it and interview other people on the gyms podcast. I think the gyms jobs software is still in development. It's available to use, but it's still in development. It's still growing. It's still getting benefits as it goes. And compared to other software packages, I would say most of the software packages have some pros and cons anyway, which Jim and Joel are looking at what the other ones do and either matching it or trying to do better than it in some ways. So at the moment, I would probably rate, and like I said, I haven't used it, but I'd probably rate Jim's jobs as not quite as good as the majority of other CRM softwares that are out there. But it has some unique features like you're talking about, where you can look at your revenue. Your projected revenue is a really interesting one you can look at.
Yeah, projected revenue. It's got your diary there, your invoicing, your quoting, your customer list, and it breaks it down. It breaks your customer list down to the suburbs, like each. It'll group them in each different suburbs,
Yeah.
and look, I'm sure you can get that on other um, CRMs, but that's just part that's included with the gym system.
Yep.
Um, then you've got a main thing with the leads that come through is you don't have to you don't have to pick and probe the customer about what they need done. Like they call the call center or they contact the call center
Right.
and it gets sorted into what the customer wants and then it gets spat out to you as a text message to call that customer. So
Okay.
you don't have to say, you don't have to have a conversation with someone that you've never spoken to and say, oh, okay, so what do you need help with?
Yeah.
So I've got a lawn, needs mowing. Okay. And then they're like, oh, no, I actually need gardening done as well. Oh, I might need my gutters done as well. Like gyms, the call center does all that for you. And it
Right.
says this person wants this, and this. And it lets them know that I also provide these extra services.
Yep.
So they're more than happy to ask about that.
Yeah. Okay.
And then all I do is I get the text message, the lead comes through, call this person, this is
Yep.
exactly what they want. And I call up and say, hey Gary, it's Chris from Gyms.
Yeah.
I just got your details come through now. You need help with your lawn mowing and you
Yep.
need help with your gutters.
Yep.
So when can we book in a quote? It's already done for you. It's a 2-minute conversation.
Yeah.
You don't have to go back and forth or get photos from the customers or anything. Everything's done, and then
Yep.
you just have to go out and quote. So it takes a lot of time off you in regards to going through all the different customers and inquiries that could lead to nothing. They sort of sift through all the time wasters and all the people who just want questions.
Okay.
They do all that for you.
Yeah. That sounds like a big advantage, especially listening to somebody last week talking about the problem they have with time management when it comes to quoting.
Yeah. So like an old lady who wants to spend 10 minutes talking to you on the phone just to get an idea as to what she should do for her lawn.
Yeah.
She'll call the gym's call center and they'll talk to her and they'll talk through what needs to be done. We need to get a contractor out there to have a look at it, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
But then they do that 10-minute conversation, not me. And then I just call her, get the lead, go out and quote the job, and it's done. Like it's very, very simple.
Now, if you were running a business with 10 employees and you're going, all right, I'm busy, I don't want to take on more leads from Jim, I'm happy to be independent at this stage, you've got to have your own admin team to handle all of those, the influx of calls, all of the quotes, all of the people calling up that are already customers. You got to have an admin person handling all of that for you.
Yep.
Whereas Jim's comes with that administration team that fields the initial inquiries, puts it in your system, gives you what you want so that you can make a streamlined effort when you're returning calls and doing quotes.
Yep, correct.
Okay, so there's some serious advantages there. So that's 3 I think we're up to. First one being your franchisor network that's local. Second one being the software packages. Third one being the admin team that handles all of the leads and inquiries.
So leads and inquiries, yes. Once they're your customer, the communication's on your
directly. Yep.
Directly with you. They don't then continue to call the call center all the time.
Yep.
So then if you did have a company with 10 employees, you would need someone.
You're still going to need someone even if you're part of Gyms. Yep.
It's more so if the customer loses your contact or loses your information or there's some sort of communication lapse there, they can always call Gyms. And like I've had it happen several times. I always give business cards and whatnot and fridge magnets. And I say, if you lose your fridge, you lose my number.
Yep.
But you still do get the odd person that loses your number. They call the gym system.
Yeah.
They call Jim, sorry. And automatically, once they bring up the customer's phone number or name, that customer's linked with me for life. So they can see, oh, you've had Chris.
Yep.
So we'll get Chris to give you a call or here's Chris's number. And then you're back in communication with that customer. Whereas an independent, if somehow or some way they lose your number and
Mm.
they want you to come and do their lawns, unless you're diligent and you follow up with all your customers to say, hey, you haven't had your lawn done in a month, that
Yep.
person's gone. They're going to get someone else. So that's
Yeah.
just a tiny little bonus. That's such a huge benefit of having the call center. And also it's a selling point. This is probably moving now into the fourth pro as to why being in gyms is, like you asked me for the four systems. This is an advantage
Yep.
where um, if I break a window at a customer's job,
Yep.
at a customer's house, sorry, if I was a dodgy, like most independents, most people are going to do the right thing. But
Yeah.
if I was a dodgy person,
A cowboy.
cowboy, correct, yeah. I think 80% of the people out there, independents, they're going to do the right thing. They're going to own up to it. They're going to pay for the window,
Yeah.
right? But let's say I'm dodgy and I just block the customer. I
Yep.
forget the $80 that she owes me. I broke a window. I just block the customer, never
Yep.
see her again, right? As an independent.
Hmm.
That customer has no recourse to contact anyone.
Yep.
Maybe she can call the police. I'm not sure exactly what she'd do.
Yeah.
But with
And she
gyms,
wouldn't be either.
that's right. With gyms, if I break her window, she just calls gyms. I've got to go out and get that sorted. It will 100% get sorted. And that is a huge selling point for me when I talk to customers and say,
Yep.
yeah, look, I'm a little bit more expensive, but all the gyms are fully insured. We have to be insured to keep our franchisee agreement
Yep.
like current, and the insurance is through gyms. So there's no way you can't just sign up to an insurance,
Yep.
cancel it on the first day and have your certificate of currency, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
You have to have a current and active insurance through gyms. So
Interesting.
it's a huge selling point where you talk to customers. Yeah, look, I'm a little bit more expensive, but we're fully insured. We're police checked, and if anything goes wrong on your property, if you're not happy, just call gyms,
Yep.
let them know, and someone will be out to. If it's not me, someone will contact you to get your issue resolved. So
Have,
that is why we can charge a premium price,
yep.
because they have that guarantee that if something goes wrong or if I'm not doing my end of the agreement, they've got the gym's contact there that they can call, and I can't hide from anything.
Yeah. Okay. Do you know if did you ever compare the cost of the gym's insurance with the cost of independent?
I didn't, because you have to have the gym's one, so
Yeah.
the cost difference is irrelevant, because I couldn't say, oh, I found a cheaper package. You've got to go with the gyms, and you've got to go with the gyms for that reason that I told you.
Yeah.
But from what I've been told, it's pretty reasonable.
Okay. That's good to know.
And also they cover you for extra things as well, not just like you're not limited to just lawn mowing and gardening. Like the scope
Yeah.
sort of expands a little bit. That's what Joel explained to me anyway.
Yep. So one of the systems of gyms that has come under very close scrutiny over the last 12 months is the gym's training. And I'm curious from your perspective how you would have found that, because you've got a wealth of previous experience in the industry already.
Yeah.
You come into gyms training, you're going to get their famous 3 days or whatever it ends up being. Is it 3 days, 6 days? You get
6 days.
trained?
6 days from Monday to Saturday in Melbourne. So you go, it's great. You go like, it's like, I think it's an old university. Like you go there, you stay on site, and you have a real good time with the other gyms guys, because you're all like in rooms next to each other and stuff. So you hang out, have a few beers after class and whatnot,
Yeah, okay.
spend the nights together. And but I'll be honest, and like Jim and that probably won't like this. You don't get any training on how to actually do the job.
Right.
So, but I'll come back to why that's okay, because you go to training and it's all about customer service. You learn
Yep.
the first like 2 or 3 days, it's all about customer service, how to be a professional person, how to run a professional business,
Yep.
how to be respectful. They go through the importance of contacting your customers straight away, health and safety.
Yeah.
They're the first 3 days,
Yep.
essentially. And then you go into the gym systems, the gym software, how to use the software. Then you go into how to quote jobs, and you get throughout there you get people that have gyms businesses, and you get their experiences and their recommendations as to how they run their business and what they could do.
Yep.
Like you have Dan Cahill, he comes for a day. I can't remember John Wilds, I think his name is.
Yeah, I'm not
He's one
familiar
of the
with him.
bigger franchisees down there, and he's also a franchisor as well. I think he does both. Like he
Yeah,
still
okay.
operates
Yep.
like a business, and he's a franchisor as well. I think.
Okay.
Don't take my word for it, but you don't turn a lawnmower on. You don't use a whippersnipper. You don't use a
Yeah.
head trimmer. You don't use a backpack sprayer.
So is this your experience? Like you're saying in that 6 days you didn't do any of that.
From
So
what I'm aware, you don't learn that training, but you get the support. That's why I said I'll come back to it, why I think that's fine.
yeah.
Because when you start a business, you get the support from your franchisor, and
Yep.
you also get the opportunity to go and work with other franchisees in the area. So
Yeah.
for me, I didn't need that support. I
Yes.
didn't need the training. But for someone who does, like if you just go out there and you've never mowed a lawn before, you've never picked up a whippersnipper, and you think it's a good idea to just start straight away and just start building customers, then like you need to have a real good think about it.
Yep.
You get set up to where you'll go and do a bit of experience with other guys, get the basic experience, start picking up jobs that you're capable of doing, and then from there you'll grow and learn your skills, and you get all the support from your franchisor. If any complaints come through that are sort of highlighting the quality of work, then the franchisor might say, hey, look, we need to get you doing some more work with some of the other franchisees, or I'll
Yep.
come out and I'll help you with this, and I'll show you how to approach this. So early on in the piece, you get a lot more support from your franchisor.
Yeah.
And that's discussed to say, hey, look, if there's something you don't know how to do, we're here for you to help and support you. But
Yeah.
that just wasn't something that I needed,
Yep.
but that is there. But as far as training goes, at the 6 days in Melbourne, you don't learn how to actually operate as a lawn mowing contractor.
Yeah, okay. So when it comes to the function of your job, your day-to-day work, your mowing lawns, your trimming hedges, and all those sorts of things, you're going to learn it from working alongside another franchisee when you take that opportunity to actually go and spend a day or a week working with another franchisee, not from being down in Melbourne.
Correct. Yes.
And so that can be quite subjective and depends on the franchisee that you're allocated. And I guess that's up to the franchisors to do a good job of lining that up.
Yeah, that's right. They would have guys. They do have guys that they sort of identify
Yes.
as guys that will happily take on an extra body
Yep.
to use to help get through work, but also provide them with the help
Yep.
and the extra training that they need. So
Yeah.
I've said to Paul, I'm more than happy to have someone come out with me. One, I get someone that I can use as a body, but two, I got the experience from my previous job. I was
Yeah.
the main person that trained new people.
Yep.
For like the basics of lawn mowing and gardening.
Yeah.
With my previous job, so that's perfect for me. So although it's not something I needed from gyms when I started, and you
Yeah.
don't get it at the 6 days training, you got all the support there from the gyms around you
Yep.
when you're starting out, and your franchisor as well.
Yeah, okay. So I guess the systems we've covered at the moment give people a pretty good insight into what to expect when they're joining up to a gyms. And you've found those systems they work really well.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Like all the software, it is very basic,
Yep.
but it all works.
Yeah.
And it's all there. And the CRM does link up to Xero and stuff for your accounting and whatnot as well. So that's a bonus. And yeah, it's all the software is basic, but it all works well, and it works perfect with how the system's set up for the invoicing and the quoting.
Yep.
And the leads and everything, and all the customer details there for you.
So one of the recent criticisms I've heard of gyms is even though you've said several times you get to charge a premium because you are a gyms. You get to charge a slightly higher price than what an independent might charge.
Mm-hmm.
One of the criticisms that I have heard recently is that depending on where you are, and it might come down to franchisors or it might just come down to regions, there's still a fair bit of variability in pricing within the gyms network. So what I'm getting at there is if you're doing okay, you're pretty happy with your pricing, you've looked at your numbers, you know them pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
What if those people that fall through the cracks, if I'm guessing they don't have a good franchisor that's helped them with their quoting, or they didn't get the quoting right when they did the 6-day training.
Yeah.
But when I hear of gyms franchises that are around the $80 an hour mark, I'm like, that's the bare minimum at the moment for where you need to be running a lawn care business, and not great.
Yeah. So let's say an independent is going out and doing the same thing. They're picking up work, they're quoting, they don't realize it, but they're undercharging.
Yeah.
They're not getting jobs. Maybe their presentation's off. Maybe they're just not a good salesperson. It is a bit of a sales role at the end of the day. You do have to present yourself, and you do have to show the person that they're going to get what they pay for.
I don't think people realize that at the start, that they're not just buying a job lawn mowing, they're also buying a job where they're a salesperson, an accountant, and
I've only just my mindset has only just recently shifted in the last 3 months that I'm not just a lawnmower man. I'm not just a gardener. I'm a businessman.
Yep.
Sales is very important in that, and generating more work is like key for that. And sales. So like an independent, they could be getting their prices wrong. They could be overcharging extremely and losing jobs that way. They could be undercharging and getting jobs and not making profits. They could be not getting jobs because of their presentation or because the way they're invoicing. They could just be sending a quote through as a text message. So in the gym system, if you're struggling with that, if you're seeing, because like they've all got ideas that the work's going to come in, prices are going to get accepted. If you're like, hey, I'm not making as much money as I need to be making, but I'm fully booked, you just contact your franchisor. We have monthly meetings where we're talking to each other about, how you going with your business? Are you busy? How's your cash flow? How's your revenue going? You're talking about that stuff. So the ones that are sort of slipping through the cracks and not making enough money to get by, it gets flagged, just picked up in conversation that, hey, I'm doing something wrong here.
Yeah.
So the franchisor, Paul, will sit down and say, all right, what are we charging an hour? Why are we charging that amount?
Yeah.
Let's try and do this for your area. The guys around you are charging this amount. So he's got the information there from the guys around.
Yeah.
And he could say, okay, all right, you're not wearing your uniform. Your uniform's filthy when you go and quote these jobs. Have a spare quoting shirt in your car. Spray some deodorant on. Make sure your collar's done properly. Like it's those little things. Make sure you send a confirmation text. Make sure you call the customer after you send the quote through to confirm that they got it and it didn't go to their spam. Don't just leave it in their hands to get back to you. Like you learn all that at the gym's training, but it's reinforced with your franchisor as well, that you've got more work to do. Once that quote's sent, call the customer straight away and say, hey, Gary, thanks for having me out today. I've just sent that quote through. Just have a look at your email for me. Just make sure you got it. Have a think about it and get back to me and let me know. And then that's present in their mind. They'll look at it then, or at least you'll know that they got it, because they'll be like, yeah, mate, I've got it here. I'll have a look at it when I get a chance. You don't want to be too pushy, but you want to make sure they actually got the email. Yeah. And then say, look, all right, mate, let me know how you go. If you're happy to go ahead, I'll follow up with you tomorrow if I don't hear anything, because, everyone's busy. So I'll just follow up with you tomorrow, but I'm looking to hear back from you so we can get the job booked in. So that's the stuff that you learn from the gyms, and then it's reinforced by your franchisor and the other franchisees that you're talking to and communicating with around you. Yeah. And that's something that not all the independents have access to or support from. They'll just be like, I'm really struggling. They can contact the LMCA, but they're getting guys from all over. Like they're saying, like a question in the LMCA will be like, oh, how much do I charge per hour? And it's a guy in Sydney and a guy in Adelaide's replying to him saying, "Oh, you got to charge $67.50 per hour, or you're not making money." It's like it's completely irrelevant to his situation.
Well, that's an interesting one you raised there, right? And I
Yeah.
find the Facebook groups are incredibly valuable for asking that stupid question that nobody
Yep.
wants to ask. Everybody needs to ask it. Just suck your pride in and ask the question, get some feedback, and away you go again, right? For the
Yep.
independents, if you're part of the franchise, you can get that support in the franchise.
Yep.
And like you say, possibly better support in the franchise. One of the things I've found there is that whether you're independent or in a franchise, and I've noticed this feedback from Jim's franchises as well, South Australia and West Australia seem to be little pockets which get forgotten about. And I've heard positives from those areas as well, but a lot of negatives in terms of the gyms network doesn't get good support in West Australia or South Australia. Contractors in those areas, whether they're franchises or independent, are often charging significantly less than the rest of the country. Efficiency is the thing that rules a business and the decisions you make as a small business owner. Right Mowers give you the options in their product lineup to match efficiency with size, fuel usage, and the type of jobs you want to target, from catching to mulching or side discharge, from roadside verges to acreages, and manicured lawns to 6 feet tall and super long. I've been using the Right Stander I 42-inch with a Catch Pro for manicured areas and the Stander ZK61 to maximise productivity for large open acreage mowing. If you need to replace your push mower, try the 32-inch Stander B. If you have more open access to residential properties, there's a 42 through 48-inch option that suits you. And if you want to enter the acreage market, the 52, 61 and 72-inch machines have choices in engine size and model type to suit the work you want it to do. Right Standards go the distance, saving you time and money season after season.
Okay.
So it's an interesting one. If Joel's listening to that, he might do a bit of a deeper dive into it and then come and talk to me, and we can have a online chat about it too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that I think across the board there are pockets in Australia where pricing is more challenging. And we talked about that in Cooranbong, right? Like you go into the new subdivision and it's so much easier than the older housing areas.
That's right. Yeah, just a 5-minute drive across the street, and you're in a completely different demographic.
I can shout across the road into the new subdivision. That's how close it is. But my side, and to give people a good understanding of this, in the new subdivision, where I can see it if I go out my front door, the property sizes there are down under 400 square metres for some of them, and most of them are between 400 and 500 square metres. There's a few that are bigger. Most of them are in that size for total property, which means you're talking 200 to 300 square metres of lawn for most of the houses there. My property and my side of the street and the rest of Cooranbong will range between 800 square metres and an acre. And most of them will be in that sort of quarter acre to half acre lot size.
Yeah.
So massive difference in size and budget.
That's right. Yeah.
So it makes a big difference. But I think that's going to be a problem that plagues Australia when it comes to small businesses, where somebody who's maybe entrepreneurial, more likely a technician, has started a business, provide themselves with a job, and they're going to be challenged with how to get their pricing right and working in regions where pricing fluctuates.
Yeah, that's right. I've just finished a good book, The E-Myth Revisited, and it talks about the differences between technician, entrepreneur, and manager.
Yes.
And if you want to be successful, you've got to figure out how to be all three. You can be a great gardener and really good at mowing lawns, but if you don't have those other two, you're going to struggle because everything needs to tie in together.
Yeah.
So that's been something I've just learned recently. I think I was just a really good technician, and now I'm sort of starting to come into those other things.
I've mentioned the E-Myth a few times, and that's why I use that word technician, because I'm tempted to label people as being Asperger's or on the spectrum rather than label them as a technician, but it's kind of a little bit of crossover there. Either which way, the E-Myth is a much more helpful explanation in the sense that people do fit into those categories. They tend to just slot into what is most comfortable. And if you've been holding a job for a number of years and then you're going, okay, I don't want to work for somebody else anymore, chances are you will create yourself a job, which means you will essentially become a technician in the job that you have created for yourself rather than a manager or a entrepreneur. And that can be fine. Some people will stumble across the right pricing and be really good at their skill in their technical role, which means, they'll do okay. But then we get into a topic which I'm trying to invite a couple of guests to answer in terms of what do you do if you are really good at your job and you get too busy?
Yeah.
How do you handle employees? How do you handle business growth? And if you don't
Yeah.
have the manager and the entrepreneur in there, oh well.
That's right. You sort of capped it how much you can do.
Well, people either fail
Take on too
completely.
much work, you get burnt out.
Yeah, people will fail completely. They'll shut up shop and go and work for somebody else again, or they grow, shrink, grow, shrink, grow, shrink.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's not a good way to move forward.
Well, it's all good until you bust your knee.
Yeah, that's right.
Then you got a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
So
Chris.
I just want to say for the record,
Yeah.
I love gyms. I hope I didn't say anything negative there.
Well,
There is pros and cons to everything, and you got to take on board what I said about the training that you did, the support and whatnot.
yeah,
But I've found it a very great benefit. I
yep,
recommend it to anyone,
yeah.
everyone that I get the chance to. I tell them to buy Jim's business. My best mate, I'm trying to encourage to buy one at the moment.
Look,
um, so
I
that's
do
my
the same thing, right? I've
yeah,
been saying on this podcast for a couple of years now that joining a franchise is a really good way to start a lawn care business.
yeah,
And gyms is the bigger of the many options. But recently I've heard a number of people referring to it as the cult of gym. And I
yeah,
get a bit of a chuckle out of that one.
yeah,
But it can be seen that way, right?
yeah.
The network, the complete solution that gym offers can be a little bit cult like.
Yeah, okay. I do. So I think your main sticking point with the gyms is, or like what you're trying to get out of me is that like it's good to start off as gyms, but once you're fully busy and you've got everything you need from them, what's the value in paying the lead fees the fees every month? That's like the main thing that you're questioning, right?
Yeah, well, we've raised a number of topics, but ultimately, I think that's what it comes back to, and this is your question. Like you answer that as best
Yeah.
as you can. For
So in
everybody running a
5 years'
gyms
time,
franchise, there'll be
yeah,
different answers.
yeah, in 5 years' time, I might have a completely different answer for you. So,
Yeah.
yeah, um,
So
yeah,
so yeah, that's a challenging one, and I personally think if you start out with a gyms, like you've said, it can be a great way to focus on being the entrepreneur and the manager, so that you don't have to worry about just being the grass technician.
that's right. Yeah,
So
yeah,
that helps you to get where you want to go. And then once you get to 5 years' time or 10 years' time, or instead of talking time, once you get to 5 employees, 10 employees, 20 employees, you might go, is there still good value in being a part of the gyms franchise? Maybe, maybe not. And I've
yeah,
seen a number of people drop it.
yeah. And you meet a whole bunch of guys at the meetings. Like we do monthly meetings on Zoom, but every quarter they're in person.
Yeah.
Um, and there's a guy that I sit next to every time, and he's been with gyms for like over 20 years,
Yeah.
and I think it's just him as a solo. So I'm not exactly sure what benefits he's getting, but he's obviously happy to keep paying the fees.
Yeah.
So he's like an older guy as well. He's probably in his 60s or 70s, and
Well,
yeah,
I
he's
know
been with
quite a
Jim.
few people like that.
Yeah, and he's happy to continue to pay the fees. He loves it. He comes to every single meeting,
Yeah.
and he's happy. And then
Yep.
there's other guys that have got 4, 5, 6 employees, and they're continuing to grow, asking for more work, more work, more work,
Yeah.
and that's another thing. No matter how many no matter how big your business is, your fees stay the same. So you could be a $2 million revenue company and you're
Yeah.
still paying the $10,000 a year.
Yep.
Um, or you could be just getting by and paying $10,000 a year.
Yeah. And I guess that would suck if you are just getting by and you've been in the business for 5 years.
Correct.
And I would start questioning whether that person's franchisor is doing a good job, or whether the person themselves is ignoring all of the help that's around them.
Yeah. Well, there's constantly like newsletters and notifications, and you get called. You get called. I think the requirement is monthly, but I typically get a call every fortnight from my franchisor just to say, "Hey, how's everything going? Do you
Yeah.
need help with anything?"
Yep.
And you can always contact them if you've got a simple question about a quote or a job that you're
Yeah.
doing, and the response is very quick as well. So if someone was in that position where they were struggling, it sort of falls back on them to be like, hey, I'm an adult here. I'm running a business.
Yeah.
Things aren't going well. I need to ask for help rather than
Yeah.
just burying it down and down and down and gritting your teeth.
Yep. And I think that's key to what you've been telling us on this interview is that the support that's available, what you do with it is
Yeah.
what makes the difference. And
And
I've
and
heard a few people.
do you think you'd be more comfortable? Let's say you were struggling. Do you think you'd be more comfortable as a gym contacting someone that you're paying for support, or an independent who's struggling reaching out to random people for advice as to how I could run my business, how I should be doing better? What do you think would be an easier thing to do?
That's not an easy one to answer.
I think
I'm
I know.
so yeah. I know why you're leaning that direction. In my mind, I'm thinking there's probably like 70, 80, maybe even higher than 80% of lawn mowing contractors that start independently.
Yeah,
And out of those that start independently, according to Jim Penman, the failure rate is up around 90-95%. I'm not sure, don't quote the exact number, but it's really high. So out of those that do start independently, if they join up the Facebook groups, the Australian Professional Lawn Contractors, LMCA, various groups, or they listen to my podcast, hopefully if they're listening to my podcast, they get what they need. But, if they're joining those groups and they're struggling, there's still going to be a large percentage of them that are, because of insecurities or whatever it is, afraid to speak up.
yep,
They don't have somebody like a franchisor chasing them, reaching out to them.
yep,
But those that do speak up in those situations, they do get help. They get overwhelming support from complete strangers.
yep.
So, yeah, it's not a straightforward one. I can see your point. Like if you are surrounded
I just
by...
think it's an easier step to take for someone who's maybe a bit shy or a bit embarrassed.
Yeah,
It's
well,
an
if you're
easier
surrounded by those
step.
people and you're like, we've got a fortnightly meeting, we're getting a phone call, we're getting other people on the same level as us talking to us and saying, hey, how you going?
Yeah,
That
correct.
network is helpful, isn't it? And it does minimize the opportunity for people to slip through the cracks.
Yep, yep. So that's just another benefit that I'd point out as well.
Yeah,
But pros and cons to both. I'm not against independence. I want everyone to be successful. The
yep,
more my guys out there that I see, the better.
yeah.
We've got to take over the world together.
So, look, I really appreciate the hour we've spent on the line here
Yeah.
talking about all of this.
Mhm.
We haven't talked about motorbikes, and by the sounds of it, you're not a motorbike fan.
I've ridden a motorbike once, and it was a very scary experience. I didn't crash, but
Yeah,
I didn't get injured. Sorry, I did crash several times, but I didn't get injured.
yeah.
Um,
So your free time, instead of motorbikes, you've got a young family and a bit of a fanatical golfer.
yes, mate. Yes, yes. So I've got a married. I've got two little boys. I've got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old,
Yep.
Liam and Lucas. And since I started as a gym, I became obsessed with golf.
Ah,
So every chance I get out and I play golf as much as possible.
there you go.
And there was a while there where I was only working 4 days a week just so I could play golf on Fridays without feeling guilty about leaving the kids on the weekend.
Fair enough.
But I'm
I
not good
don't
at golf.
understand golf. Golf is just not for me. And I look at it this way: the only interest I have in the golf course is the green stuff that's on the course.
Yeah, that is a good aspect of it as well. Actually, you get to see the machinery going around, and you
Yep.
talk to the greenskeepers while you're there. Oh, how often do you cut this, or what chemicals do you put on it? That's an interesting part as well for me. And
Yep.
my mate that I play with is also a gardener,
Yeah.
qualified gardener. Um, but it's just crazy. Like, it's so addictive. You think it's easy.
Yeah.
You just hit the ball from here and you get it in that hole in
Yep.
the least amount of shots as possible. But it's a ridiculously hard game. There's so much technique to it and things you have to think about. Your swing path,
Yep.
striking down on the ball. It's really, really complex. And as you're getting older and you want to step away from playing footy or playing soccer where you're probably going to get injured,
Yep.
but you want to still do something that's like you got to look forward to. Golf's a great hobby to pick up.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
Come out and play with me one day, mate. Is there any courses in Coomera?
Look, the local course got shut down several years ago. That was Morisset one.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That got
We'll have to
shut.
find somewhere, mate. I'll take you out.
And the people I know that play golf, they either go to Toronto or Wyong.
Yeah, I play at Wyong.
Yeah, okay.
Play at Wyong. There's a really nice one right behind Wyong in Corinda Waters.
Okay, yep.
I've been there a few times, and that's like a nicer course, so it's a bit more expensive.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Is that the one that's got all of the houses on the back of the course? So you
you actually drive through, like with your golf buggy, you actually drive through part of like where the street houses are and stuff. So
yeah, I've been out to Magenta Shores doing some work out there, and that same sort of setup.
Yeah, that's I haven't played there yet. You've got to be a member, or you've got to be a guest at the hotel. Yeah. So
interesting. Yeah. I like my motorbikes too much to waste time playing with sticks on the grass.
Yeah, mate. The one time I did ride a motorbike was a lot of fun, but me and my mate who both did it for the first time, we went to is there a place called Louis up near? We went there. Is there like a motorbike course?
Yeah, it's like a motorbike farm, I think.
Yeah, we went there, and that was a crazy experience. A couple of close calls, and we both survived. But we're with some really experienced riders, and they sort of took us out to their farm, and then we went there, and it was a great time. And we were like, "Yeah, let's get motorbikes." Blah, blah, blah. But then afterwards, we were like, "We're lucky we didn't die or break a bone, so we're not going to do it."
Look, the way I ride, I'm not likely to die or break a bone, but
yeah. My the guy that works with me, he's got a cruiser. I couldn't tell you what he's got, but he comes to work on a motorbike every day. So
very good.
I listen to your podcast in the car, like between jobs and stuff, and he's when you're talking about the motorbikes, and he perks up a little bit. So.
He'd perk up until he hears me hating on cruisers.
Yeah. Where he heard you talking about your recent injury because you were riding for too long with a uncomfortable bike, and he's like, "Yeah, get on the cruiser, mate."
Tell him not a chance.
Yeah,
I've had one cruiser. I'm not getting another.
Yeah.
Hey, look, it's been great talking to you. Yeah. It's getting to that time of the evening where it's time to wrap it up. But
no worries, mate. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much for your time.
No worries. Too easy.
Yeah. Stay on the line.
Thank you for listening to Aussie Lawn Stars. Please remember to rate and review the show on the Apple Podcasts app or the player you use. Exciting new shows are released every Monday. Make sure you follow or subscribe to hear the next episode.